Welcome back to Beyond the Helmet. And of course, it's hashtag BTHpod if you're following on social media. I'm your host, Steve McGrath, and today it is my pleasure to bring you former UCF wide receiver. Of course, he tore it up in the NFL for a few years too. It's none other than Mike Sims Walker. Mike, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing well. I can't complain. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good, especially after we work through some tech difficulties on our end.
Yeah, it's all good. Appreciate you having me, man.
Now, you're a wide receiver. You're used to going deep, but I want to go deep in a different route. When I look at you on social media, the first thing I see in your bio is I look nothing like what I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Why, when people look at you on social media, is that the first thing that you want them to see? Do you mind opening up a little bit about that?
I don't mind at all. Just, social media is not really reality. People show, the highlights, right? You know what I mean?
For sure.
Social media, it's like a highlight reel, you know what I mean? But, they don't see the, behind the scenes stuff. They just see the baby. They don't see the labor that you put in. So I just, I like to make it clear that, this is not peaches and cream or, this lifestyle or, the whatever you see is just, I didn't wake up with this. It took a lot of losses, a lot of hard work, a lot of tears, a lot of blood, a lot of sweat. You know what I mean? Just a lot of everything,
Definitely. So when you think about the road that not just led you to being a successful athlete, but a successful person overall, you've done stuff outside of being sports. When you think about not everyone, we see the glitz and the glam, but we don't necessarily know everyone's road. How early does it start for you? Where do you pinpoint being some of the first hurdles in your life that you kind of had to overcome to get to where you are?
Man, early, man, young age, just, trying to be disciplined, trying not to be like my surroundings. You know what I mean? I think growing up pretty poor and, seeing everybody, doing the same thing in the streets, I kind of showed me what I didn't want to do. You know what I mean? That molded me into somebody that just let me know what I didn't want to be. You know what I mean? I never really had a real guy besides my dad or my brother, but pretty much that's all I needed to look up to. And everybody else just showed me what I didn't want to do. You know what I mean? So my dad and my brother kind of really set the tone for me to make sure I stayed on the right track and then follow my surroundings.
So my obvious next question would be, who were your role models? But it's your dad and your brother. Those are really who you looked up to.
Yeah, no question. They just were, you know what I mean? Like I said, they didn't, they were the older generation for, somebody I follow for sure. But then, I got family, I got cousins, I got uncles and aunts and everything else. And, my dad and my brother just always made sure I stayed tunnel vision and I didn't look outside of them.
So tunnel vision, as it relates to you getting to college to play a sport, I mean, when did it become tunnel vision on a sport? Or was it always there a love for football? Like, how do you eventually find a path that's going to take you somewhere where you don't want to go, but you got to kind of have to figure out where you want to go?
I mean, I was always involved in sports. Between basketball and football, I actually didn't really know. I mean, I didn't play high school football until my junior year because I love basketball so much that early on. I was good at football. Basketball was just like, for me, one of my little first love things. But when I got to high school, I realized that I was a better football player than basketball. Not to say I wasn't a good basketball player, but I just know, with my size and height, and it just translated way better on the football field as opposed to the basketball field. So I made a smart move, and I'm glad I was mature enough at that age to realize that, because a lot of people don't.
Definitely. So do you mind talking a little bit about how you go from obviously a pretty good athlete to being, first team all conference wide receiver? I mean, by the time you're a senior in college, you're tearing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, you're playing some cornerback because, the team has some injuries. So it's not like it was this straightforward path where you're this 5-star recruit tearing it up from the beginning. It really, from an outsider's perspective, seemed like you had to earn your way. Do you mind talking a little bit about that mindset when you get to school, how you actually were able to kind of improve every year? And obviously Brandon Marshall's a wide receiver there too. How much did having someone like him and other receivers to learn from help ease that path?
Man, I think it started my state championship game in high school. I think that's when I personally kind of knew who I was. You know, I don't play 2 years of high school football. In the first year was, you know, it was pretty successful, but I still didn't know how good I was. You know what I mean? I knew I was in the rankings and I was in the newspapers and all that, but I just didn't know, like, compared to the other greats or the other great wide receivers or corners in the country or in the state of Florida, period. Until I got to the state high school championship. And I just knew as a player, as a leader, I kind of just realized who I was. Like, I just had it. You know what I mean? I went in that huddle and I demanded the ball and I wanted it. And you know what I mean? For me to step up in that moment just gave me all the confidence in the world moving forward. And that translated to college, I think. And when I got to college, my confidence all the way through the roof. And I think confidence is big. Confidence and discipline are probably the two main things for me. Because everybody has talent, but you got the discipline and the confidence to, you know what I mean, go out there and just prove it.
Pretty wild that as a senior in high school, you kind of could see that. I don't think most athletes or even people in general really get that realization till later, like what it sort of takes and who they really are. So, like physically, right, you kind of have to be at a certain level. Like, you know, the kid that is 300 pounds, short, can't run, obviously not going to be a good receiver. So if the understanding is physically you're gifted enough to play it, how much of that, of like, if you're going to give like a percentage to mental versus physical, how much, like, what's the real weight of the mental side of it? Is that like 70% of the battle, 80%? Or am I overstating it?
Mental, probably at least a good 75. A lot has to do with mental more than physical. I mean, you can lift all the weights in the world. You could jump as high as you can. You could run a 4.2, but man, if you don't have the confidence to do it and the willpower and the discipline, man, half of that stuff don't even matter.
So when we say mental, are you like just specifically stating discipline, willpower, or do you also consider mental like knowing the playbook? Like, is it knowing 100%. The X's and O's, or is it more just belief?
100%. It's knowing, and it's knowing why. You know what I mean? So I can know where to go, but I don't know why. And you didn't know, why are you going this way? Are you a decoy? Are you the first read? You know what I mean? I can know, okay, I got to out route this route. But why am I running this out route? You know what I mean? What defender am I trying to, you know, affect? Or is it a one-on-one? Is it just me and him? You know what I mean? Like, you just need to know why you're doing it on top of where you're going. So I think that, you know, smartness, being a smart football player, having a high IQ, studying the game, you know what I mean? Studying your opponents. It's just more than just knowing your playbook.
Totally. So I think that's sort of a perfect segue to finding success outside of sports. I mean, I want to talk about the NFL in your career a little bit, but what you just said translates to anything in life that you do, regardless of what you've put your mind to since being in the NFL. How much have you been able to kind of use the idea of being an athlete and just the receiver, right? Knowing what the assignment is, what the defense is trying to do, what's your role in this play. Have you been able to take that and apply that? Or is it more not so much like the X's and O's and understanding, almost like game theory, how to play it? And it's more just like, once you develop that belief, just take the belief with you and apply it to whatever's next.
I'm a firm believer that this football prepares you for anything in life. It's a team game. You got people coming from all walks of life, coming for one common goal, and everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody has to do their own job, and they have to do it good for anybody to have success. That's me, a quarterback, a O-line, a running back, whatever it is. So I think football prepares you for anything. You have to be disciplined. You have to be smart. You have to study. And I think that's just, you have to do those things in life. So I think it translates pretty well compared to anything else I could think of.
Now, everything you said, I think a listener could easily say, well, that's easy to say when, you know, times are good, right? You know, you're getting playing time and everything's easy. You know, you don't have to earn it, right? You know, it's just sort of like, yeah, when things are going good, you can kind of apply stuff to anything. But I say that because, you know, particularly as we get into your NFL career, 2007 is your rookie year, but you don't get a chance to even play a regular season game because of an injury. Right. Of course, 2011, there's a knee injury. So I don't mean to cut you off, but just like dealing with a personal setback of an injury, you don't get to play, your career doesn't get off on the right foot. How do you deal with when you get a card like that dealt to you? Like, what's your process of trying to get yourself ready, get through it, and continue to try to grow and improve?
I can't lie, man. I had a bad deck dealt to me in the NFL, man. Injuries on top of injuries. It started the last game of my junior year in college, and I had a very bad knee injury. And it just started from there. But man, I never let, you know what I mean? I run into people a lot of time, and I played football too, and I had a knee injury, and I just quit. You know what I mean? I hear it all the time. I was very good. I was all conference, and then I had a bad knee injury, and I just gave it up. And I'm like, I had 8 knee surgeries. You know what I mean? Like, I've had 8 knee injuries, and you just gave up off one. Like, it couldn't have been that serious to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't want it bad enough. And I just wanted it. I mean, I knew I was good at it. I love the sport. I love to compete. And I just wanted it, man. And it was going to take way more than a few knee injuries or 8 knee injuries for me to stop.
So now for you to hurt your knee as a junior in college, you come back as a senior and you have a terrific campaign. Year later, 2007, another knee injury, you missed a year. 2008, you play, but then it's, now we're talking about 2009 is when you really pop off. You lead the team in receptions and yardage. We're talking about like a 4-year span now of you kind of having ups and downs, up and down. What did it mean to you to have that 2009 year where you get to lead the team in the NFL, statistically the best receiver on the team? What's the validation? What goes through your mindset at the end of that year of saying, I'm finally healthy, I was able to prove what I've known I can always do?
It wasn't even about proving. I was just me trying to be healthy, man. I think they knew it. I mean, everyone knew I could play. Like, talent was never an issue for me. And everybody knows that. It was just being healthy. And I was just finally, like, I didn't care about anything. There was no stats I was trying to reach. I just wanted to play every game, or at least most of, at least 14 or 15 of them. I just wanted to play. Like, I don't care if it was special teams. I just wanted to play. Like, my first year, I was on IR. And then the second year, I hurt my knee again. I had a staph infection in my knee. I had an MCL sprain after a Pittsburgh game, which is my first 100-yard game. The day after, I got a staph infection in the knee. So it was just like, wow, okay, finally I get healthy my second year, and I finally get a start. And this first start, I go for 100 yards, and the next day my knee hurts. So I'm back to, you know what I mean? It's like he can't get right. And that's like one of the worst tags you can have in the NFL, honestly. That injury bug, that's like the worst thing you can have as a player. Because a coach can always tell you the best ability is availability, right? And no matter how good you are, if you're not available, you're no good. So for me to finally, and the crazy thing is, the 2009 training camp, I had a high ankle sprain. So I was a little scared. Good thing it was so early in the season. But I finally overcame that and overcame the knee injuries and just finally got out there and played football. And I just played with a smile on my face. I was just happy to be out there. I wasn't worried about how many catches I got, how many yards I got. I was just worried about playing football. I don't care if it was special teams. So that was a big hump for me. And of course I had a good number, I had some good stats. It was decent, could have been better, but we always gonna say that. But I was just happy to play football, man.
Given everything we just said, it makes complete sense that you would just be thankful to make it through a year.
Right. I mean, it got to a point where I didn't even want to look in the training room. Like, I was just avoiding the training room as much as possible. I would just go in the weight room and just do my own thing, like find my own regimen. I just don't even want to talk to a trainer right now.
So, I did want to ask along the way, I see, Jerry Porter comes in, veteran receiver, Dennis Northcutt, very veteran receiver by the time he gets to Jacksonville. And of course, the year that you really go off, Torrey Holt had joined the team. Was there anything, I mean, you had so much belief that you could do it, but when it came to just perfecting the craft, was there anything that like one of the veteran guys I listed or a certain coach did that you felt really elevated your game, or were you more able to just kind of get it on your own?
Yes. 2 guys for sure. Dennis Northcutt, one, definitely helped me get off press. As a young guy, we stayed after practice many days, and he definitely helped me get off press. And I got to give Dennis that credit. He definitely was a big help. But the biggest help was Torrey Holt. If it weren't for Torrey Holt, man, I probably wouldn't have had much success. Torrey was awesome. Just taught me how to be a pro. Just taught me, he came in and, he had a lot of success in St. Louis. And I was a sponge. I followed him around. He was Sonic, I was Taylor. I was on his trail every day. He probably still tired of me to this day. And I was just learning, soaking it up, man. Got to have a guy like that in here with that type of success. A guy that I looked up and known for a while. To have him as a teammate, to be in the same room with him was an honor. So I just soaked it up, man. I was a sponge. I asked him a million questions, and man, he was a big help.
What's funny is so Derek Cox has come on before, and of course he was a cornerback on some of those Jags teams that you were on, and even he lit up talking about when Torrey he had an interaction with Torrey Holt, and Torrey kind of validated you're good enough to be here, and it meant the world to him. It's crazy how one guy can really make an impact. And I'm, you being in the same room, very different than one conversation that Derek may have had with him. But it's not like you need the validation, but when you get it, and how it can just change your mindset completely.
Man, just coming from a guy like so respected and had a lot of success in his league and know what it takes, and for him to come in and he see me out in practice and I'm competing, and he just see something in me. And that just gave me even more of a drive and a motivation to go out there and just be better every day. And we worked, and he was on me. You know what I mean? He didn't spare me my feelings or anything. It was just straight up. And that's one thing about Torrey.
Now, I want to get off of the NFL and kind of talk about crypto and some other things, but can we just talk about the Rams situation? How exactly does it unfold that, man, you get there, you get the free agent deal, but it didn't take much time before you were back in Jacksonville?
Man, do we really need to talk about that? I don't even count that in my football career. Man, it just was, I think it was just bad timing for everybody. It was coming off a lockout year. We didn't have any off season. There wasn't no free agency. Training camp started like a week. I mean, they ended the lockout like a week before training camp. I think when I signed, I couldn't even practice the first week. And on top of that, we coming in with a Josh McDaniels offense, and we know that's not the easiest offense to learn. Not for me, but for a whole offense to be successful. You know what I mean? Everybody was coming back on the same team. Everybody was new. The head coach, the OC. Me especially super new because I just had signed right when training camp started and I couldn't practice the first week. So it was just bad, man. It was especially for new guys coming in or new coaches or OCs. It's just, you're not going to be able to have much success coming in, learning the playbook in a month. And that's for a whole offense. That's just not for me. That's for everybody. You know what I mean? It's just not realistic to be successful offense when everybody's learning the same thing in 1 month. So I think it was just bad from the start. We were behind the 8 ball. We did the best we can. I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. It's nobody's fault. We just needed more time, pretty much.
Yeah, and like you had alluded to, that the team overall certainly had issues across the board with just getting W's on the board. So it wasn't an offense only thing. I mean, overall, it was a lot of dysfunction. That basically every team, particularly teams that had new guys that they were trying to integrate, really felt.
Yeah, and then it didn't help. Steven Jackson got hurt, I think, the first game of the season. He's a guy. Everybody knows who Steven Jackson was. So that doesn't help either when probably your best player on the team gets hurt also. So, I mean, we just needed more time, man. We just needed to learn each other and know each other and work with each other.
And if you're going to mention that man's name, I hope that he gets some Hall of Fame consideration because he was on bad teams for a lot of his career, but everyone remembers him for the way, his style, his power. So I hope eventually he gets there.
That guy, that big, that fast, he kind of reminds me of Derrick Henry a little bit.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to jump into what I've seen you post most recently on social media, and it's about the metaverse and NFTs. And if you're not paying attention now, you're going to fall behind. And you have this video that talks about adopting the early adopters to the internet, wondering, is this a phase or not? Some 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, when you look at this digital landscape that we're in, what are some of your thoughts on just the crazy amount of change in like 1 year, let alone 2 years, like this time 2 years ago, I didn't know anything. I'd heard of Bitcoin and that was it. But this time last year, the scene starts to explode. And really just in the last 6 months, it's incredible the amount of change and innovation we're seeing at lightning fast speeds.
I think really that I put that video mainly just to show people that everything changes. You know what I mean? Like nothing stays the same, right? Even as people, we change. Everything is going to change eventually. You know, a lot of people, especially older people, you know, they don't really gravitate to change. People get comfortable and get in the comfort zone or get content with the same thing every day and over. And I just think you need to be able to adapt. I think that's a part of life. You got to be able to adapt and you have to change, and everything is changing. And like the video, people didn't believe in the internet back then. Now the world is driven off the internet. I don't even think there's like a phone book anymore or like anything like a CD. You don't have physical CDs anymore. Like everything is internet based. And that video might have been like 20 years ago and it wasn't, the internet didn't exist. I just think that just should alarm people that, you know, you need to catch up, right?
Yeah, and I'd put phones in that category. I mean, when's the last time you've seen a phone booth? And that was like the staple of communication, like not even that long ago.
Right. People know landlines, you know what I mean? People just use Wi-Fi and it's all, you know what I mean? So, and I got like some older aunts and uncles who, you know, still don't even know how to work phones, and my uncle still has a flip phone. And it's like, man, you know, you guys got to catch up.
So do you pay attention, or like, are you particularly interested in like a certain metaverse or a certain like crypto or NFT, anything, or is it more just trying to not fall behind?
I'm just trying not to fall behind, right? I'm just trying to stay sharp, especially as the world evolves, right? I've tapped into a little crypto stuff, nothing too crazy yet. And I'm still learning about the NFT thing. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose, but it's also like changing week to week on different projects that are emerging and how to figure out how to vet them. It feels like the Wild West.
It's a lot of information, and a lot of people will give up trying to learn it because it's kind of confusing a little bit because it's nothing physical, right?
It's not even a little bit confusing. It takes a more than a minute to wrap your brain around the concept, let alone how to get information about a certain project.
Exactly. So it's a lot of studying, a lot of understanding, and it's going to be a lot of confusing too. If you stick with it though, you'll catch it.
So at the rate we're going, we're 5 years, 10 years from now, how transformative do you think this is going to be? Is this going to be like all day, every day, half of the world's going to be plugged in, or do you think it's going to take more time before we get there, or it might not even get that big?
I think it's going to take more than 5 years though, but I think probably in the next 10 years, there will be no need for like physical currency, like money, not like paper money or coins.
So yeah, do you think that means we're all using Bitcoin, or do you think it's like a digital US dollar currency that's
be probably more digital than all Bitcoin? Bitcoin would be probably the main focus, but I think there still would be more digital. Like I don't see in about 10 years, I don't see us using $100 bills and $20 bills and coins. I would think that would be extinct.
Man, all those people for all those years that were stashing those bills under their mattress, like, I don't know what they're gonna do, but
I don't know, right? I don't think they're gonna be used. Like, there's a lot of places don't even accept cash. You know what I mean? It's just card only, and that's starting to, you know what I mean? That alone is already a start. So I can imagine in 10 years, nobody's gonna want cash for one, especially if we're still dealing with these COVID-19 variants and all this crazy stuff. Nobody even want to touch that stuff.
And if you want to mix in the changing landscape of like name, image, likeness, I feel like we're going to have college athletes being like crypto millionaires before they've even had a chance to really even prove themselves. And I actually just talked to this kid. It goes by Baby Gronk on social media. He already has 250,000 followers, and the kid's in 3rd grade. I talked to him and his dad. And it's just like they're so big on branding and getting everything in place for when he gets to high school and is ready for college, whatever sport he wants to play, they want to be able to leverage for the biggest NIL deal ever. And the kids, 8, 9 years old, and the dad is already trying to get that angle set up
Right.
for
Yep.
10 years later. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's crazy. At third grade.
It just how much different the world is today versus, you know, when you grew up and I grew up. Like we're only a couple years apart.
Right. Man,
Insane.
it was just so, it wasn't that serious back then. I wasn't worried about no followers. We just outside playing in the street.
Well, man, as we get to wrapping up, you know, I did want to just touch on two things family related. I'm sure you're a
Mhm.
very proud uncle because you have, of course, your nephew that's tearing it up at Georgia Tech,
Yep.
but also the fact that you had changed your name to honor your father. You know, as we just get toward wrapping up, I know those two things are very different, but obviously it seems that family has been, you know, from the time you're little, talking about your dad and your brother being a role model, to how you've honored your dad, and now you get to see a nephew growing up. Just do you mind just opening up a little bit about how much, maybe not how times have changed, but it seems like one constant has been family and seemingly your appreciation for having a close family.
Oh man, I'm huge on family, man. Anybody know me know I go over the top for my family. And I got I got another nephew. I'm actually up here with him right now. I should have him join the thing. He plays for the 76ers. His name is Paul
Oh, all
Reed.
right.
My two nephews doing pretty well, man. So I'm pretty happy about that. Especially, you know, they can, you know, I gave them the blueprint, you know what I mean, and they followed it and it became very successful as of yet. So I'm happy. But yeah, man, I'm a huge family person. My whole family, we do every holiday together. We just going to whoever house, just switch houses every year. Christmas, Thanksgiving, everything. They don't even have to be a holiday. We might just, hey, let's cook out at such and such house. So and I was born with that. I was built off that. So that's all I know. So I'm huge on family, man. And when I made it, man, it was just, I mean, they supported me from college from high school to little league to college, and me paying them back was awesome, man. It was the best feeling ever.
That's awesome. And so thank you for making it clear. I have not one, but two future guests I have to get on the show to talk about learning from Uncle Mike.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, I got a couple quick questions for you. It's called the Gauntlet. I need your knee-jerk reaction to a couple things, starting with, if you want to win a Super Bowl today, which would you rather have? The number one offense or the number one defense?
I would have the number one offense.
Okay. Even though that didn't work out for Mahomes last year, you're going to stick with it.
Yeah, I'm willing to. I'll take the number one offense versus the number one defense. The defense has to be perfect to stop the number one offense, and perfect is pretty tough to do.
And it also doesn't really account for what's the other side of the ball. Number one defense doesn't mean much if you're literally the worst offense. You got to have a good offense. So it's an imperfect question.
Right. But I guess me being an offensive guy, I know that, you know, if we could put up versus the best defense in the world, 21, 28 points, I mean, we have a pretty good chance.
For sure. Pre-game ritual. Was there anything you had to do?
I did. My dad always told me read Psalms 23 before every game. So even if I had if I didn't have my Bible, I had a Bible app, and every game before the game, I would have to read Psalms 23.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite football memory? Does anything really stand out for you?
Favorite football memory would probably be playing in Dallas Cowboys Stadium. I think it was 2010, having a good year, and I went out there and just had a great game. Career high in yards, I think. I scored. I ran to the star, did my little celebration. I mean, it was just a good time right there. I think that was a point where I was just happy. As a football player, life was good.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's most important? Is it the players on the field, or is it the scheme?
It's the players. It's the players. You need guys. You got to have some ballers, bro. Like, I coach, and you can scheme up everything. If those guys can't get it done, then it don't matter. Like, I don't care how good you are if you don't got guys that can get it done.
The only guys that say scheme, the only guys that answer scheme are the guys that played for Bill Belichick. But outside of that,
I was just trying to say that, but I mean, you can't even say that because look at him now. Like, Is it just, is it built, is it, if it was scheme, I'm sure the scheme hasn't changed and they haven't been successful the past 2 years. So I'm a firm believer it's player. It's Tom Brady. It's Gronk. It's Walker. It's Dan Amendola. It's Edelman. It's all those guys.
It's truly not one or the other. Again, this question sucks. It's a hard one to answer, but you can't, if you don't have the guys, the scheme doesn't work for sure. Mm-hmm. But man, to wrap this up, very last one I have, and it's the most important one. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of advice type things that we've talked about, but what's the best piece of advice that you would give right now to just call a young 16, 17-year-old kid that just says, hey man, how do I get there?
There's no manual. I mean, everybody's situation is different, man. I could just tell you, just work and be disciplined. Work and discipline. It's going to take some work, a lot of work. I mean, it's going to take some adversity. It's going to take some work, and you got to be disciplined. Discipline is, doing what you're supposed to do when nobody's around or nobody have to tell you what to do. Like, you got to wake up every day, especially if like you're a college student or high school. You got to wake up. You got to go be a good person. You got to go be a good student. It's just not being a good football player. You know what I mean? You got to be a good person first, right? Because nobody's going to deal with you if you're not a good person. That's no matter how good you are. Because I've been around. I tell the kids this all the time. That just because I made it don't mean I was always the best football player on the team. You know what I mean? I was just the most disciplined. And that took me a long ways.
Goes right back to the mental aspect of it.
Yep.
Got to have it.
I tell them all the time. I was not always the most talented player on every team I played on. Probably I wasn't the most talented player on neither team I played on. You know what I mean? I just knew how to be disciplined.
Well, there you have it. So, Mike, I know that on Instagram and Twitter you are at Mike Sims Walker. Is there any other place people should be following you?
Facebook, same thing. Mike Sims Walker. That's it.
Can't forget Facebook. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. It was fun, Steve. Appreciate you having me, bro.